lived it and survived. What happened, why today are 16 to 24-year-olds, like, within the top 3 populations still in new infections and what have you? When I go to talk to young people, they think, I swear to you, within the last 2 years, I've been doing, workshops, and they say, well, yeah, Magic Johnson is cured still, and they believe all these myths and all this stuff. So what happened with those who lived it, saw it with their own eyes in the communication, and, being able to, deliver these messages from firsthand experience of seeing, what it did to the communities in general, and how did the wall get dropped, but then also what is, what either maybe your personal experience or different initiatives you're involved with now, what can we do now, to pick that up and use art, media, music to kind of, make sure that doesn't happen again?
Well, going back, I was there when a lot of that happened. When I was a teenager. Well, actually, I was in my 20s. We talked about the 80s, 81, 82. I was in my 20s, so about 22. It was devastating because, again, you looked, and especially in the music scene, the first person that I remember that died from it was Sharon Reddy, and she did the record Can You Handle It? When that happened in the community, we were all floored, and then other people started dying, it just started multiplying. And and for me personally, at the time I was at Virginia State University. So, we're reading all this and we're seeing all of this, and then it starts to affect your friends. And then when you start seeing all that, you say, well, what the hell is going on? You start being more conscious of it. The message has always been put out there. It's just a matter of do people want to listen? Because the work is out there, the information is out there, materials are out there about safe sex. It's been out there for decades now. But it's just a matter of whether people want to pick up the gauntlet and pay attention and be truthful with themselves and walk that path and be realistic with what's going on. These kids nowadays, well, it can't affect me. Like you said, Magic Johnson is cured. No, you're not cured. You have to take medication for the rest of your life. So it's just a matter of what choice do they make walking down the road. Because, again, the information is there. The history is there. What more can you do? What they say, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So that's where you're at. The music, it's in the message, it's in the music. You see the PSA messages, you see all of that. You have the material, everything is there. It's just a matter of do they want to pick it up, do they want to read it, do they want to live it.
Yeah, I also think that during the time when it happened, we were talking about sanctuary, and where everyone thought it was great, we were having a great time, and then all of a sudden, this disease state sets in and starts killing everyone off. We lost a lot of mentorship, we lost a lot of guidance, and people were living in a lot of fear, guilt, and shame. And I think that a lot of that in our community didn't allow us to shepherd the younger folks to let them know and what they need to do because we didn't know what to do ourselves. And I think that, today, a lot of the young people feel like they're invincible, and that it can't be them. But it's typically the person sitting right next to you that's having that experience. They're just not sharing the experience. And I was talking to you earlier, just when I was thinking about all my mentors, and I had people to really talk to me about all those different things. But then there was a whole generation that was wiped out. And that whole personal touch and mentorship, I think, is what really was needed to really help to guide that generation that had that gap.
Well, anyone, I'm going to open it up now. If anyone ask any questions or of our panelists who were there, who lived it, some people here may have also. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add?
Not in particular to the club scene, but when what's your name?
Eddie.
When Eddie was speaking about the young people, I worked with young people for the past 26 years, and I think most of them, like Tony mentioned, they feel like from the age 16 to 24, nothing can happen to them. So that's why even when, like my nephew, he's 20, he has a car, and he's gotten 3 speeding tickets within the past month. But when I get in a car, I know that if I go above a certain speed limit, I'm going to get a ticket. And that's why a lot of them are killed in the cars, they're killed on the streets, because they feel, even though we tell them, because we lived it, nothing can happen to me from, like, I'm like Superman from 16 to 24, and if you notice, that's how most of them are being killed between those ages, because you can't tell them
Nothing.
shit. And that's it, because I work in a high school, and you can't tell them anything because they know everything, and they don't want to listen, and they always have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, and I think also drugs plays a major role in being irresponsible.
Including alcohol.
Including alcohol, I mean, not that we did not use drugs during that time, but the onset of crack and all of, you know, the psychedelic drugs that are out now, sticks and ecstasy and all those particular things, you know, is making our younger generation more inhibited to take a chance and do things.
No, we had that stuff back then as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
See how we are. Mentors or not.
Yeah, and also, you know, quick money. You know, drugs, quick money.
But then you have to add, we had it too, but we didn't have these violent video games. I remember
No.
Pac-Man, and we didn't have these violent movies and cartoons that talk about, like even a cartoon, you can hear the word bitch in a cartoon that little kids are watching. So I think it's like the whole generation.
Mhm. And they're not talking about your dog either.
We have a question, young lady.
I'm 22, so I'm well a part of that generation. And I also work with youth right on the street, 16, 21-year-olds, that's still me. So I think from the drug, alcohol, and just sexual experience, yes, they can play large roles as inhibitors, but it's still just an overall absence. You don't realize these things can happen to you
Till it
hits
happens.
home in your face. To me, it doesn't really matter the generation. It's just, it's something that you don't experience it until it happens to you. You just never think these things, you know, anything can happen, but you just, not to me though, that it never hits home. And it has nothing to do with video games. It has nothing, because
Choice,
these things
personal
have been
choice.
happening for years. It's
Okay,
your,
we have-
exactly.
Sorry, I don't want to cut her off.
No, I just feel like it has nothing to do with video games. You grow up in a world where you see examples before you see it happening now, you know it can happen then. It has nothing to do with everything else but what's directly what you choose to do.
I think you're right in terms of this whole idea of exposure. When you see certain things happen in front of you, it's different from when you hear it. You know, I always tell people, I'm a female. I've never given birth, but I know a little bit about raising kids. I can't tell you what it's like to give birth, but I can tell you what it's like to kind of, like, you know, be responsible for a child. So when you see certain things unfolding in front of you, it's far more different from when you don't see anything and they're telling you there's a boogeyman. And you're like, okay, well, where is this boogeyman? Like, you're lying, there's no boogeyman. But when you actually have family members or friends that are going through something, it's different. At that point, when you see how it affects someone you care about, you don't want to go down that road. You're going to be afraid. So in terms of the whole AIDS, yeah, I was young, but I did understand what it meant, because being in Haiti, whenever someone would be sick, they wouldn't tell you they had AIDS. It wasn't until later I knew it had a name. They would say betla, that, you know, the animal or the tick or something. They're talking about it in sort of like another term. They didn't even want to mention it by name, certain people. And you would just see people who were deteriorating, and people did not